The roar of 50,000 voices shook the Colosseum to its core. Beneath the blazing Roman sun, two warriors stood, bound not by loyalty, but by blood and vengeance. Kael, the masked champion whose victories had echoed across the empire, now faced Gaius Aelius Scarpus, the man who had destroyed his family. This was not just another fight, it was the reckoning of a lifetime. Steel would clash, blood would spill, and when the dust settled, only one man would walk away. But what awaited Kael after this battle was a truth darker than the arena itself. Shadows whispered of conspiracies, of betrayal hidden behind smiles and laurel crowns. The Emperor's eyes watched, calculating, as destiny prepared to unfold. Every heartbeat, every glance, every breath carried the weight of vengeance. And so the stage was set, not just for combat, but for revelation, for justice, for the turning of a tide that would shake Rome to its foundations.
Kael entered the arena slowly, each step deliberate, his sandaled feet crunching against the blood-soaked dirt. The midday sun bore down on him, casting a harsh glare across his bronze mask. From the imperial balcony, the emperor himself watched with a mixture of amusement and curiosity. To the crowd, Kael was the undefeated warrior, the phantom in the mask. But to Kael, this was not sport, this was justice. Opposite him stood Gaius Aelius Scarpus, older now, but still dangerous, his armor gleaming like the fangs of a predator. The crowd roared at the sight of the two titans, chanting Scarpus's name. Trumpets blared, the gates slammed shut. This was no ordinary duel. The Emperor had decreed it a fight to the death. Kael's mind flashed with images, his father's lifeless body, his daughter's frightened eyes, his beloved's final scream. His grip tightened around his gladius. He would not fail them again. When the first blow came, it was like thunder. Steel met steel, sparks flying into the air. Scarpus attacked with relentless precision, each strike aimed to kill. Kael countered, his movements honed by years in the arena. The clash was brutal, neither man yielding an inch. The crowd's cheers turned into an almost primal roar, feeding the fire in their hearts. And yet, beneath the spectacle, there was hatred, cold, calculated, and centuries old. Every parry and strike told a story of ambition, betrayal, and the thirst for vengeance. The sun glinted off Kael's blade as he sidestepped a deadly swing, spinning to deliver a counter-strike that barely missed Scarpus's neck. The air shimmered with heat and tension, the scent of sweat and blood mingling as the arena became a furnace of fury.
The fight surged across the arena like a storm. Scarpus was relentless, driving Kael back with crushing blows. His sword whistled through the air, missing Kael's head by inches. Kael ducked, rolled, and came up swinging, his blade slashing across Scarpus's shoulder. Blood sprayed, but Scarpus barely flinched. The crowd erupted. They wanted more. Kael circled, his eyes locked on the man who had haunted his nightmares. "My father," he whispered under his breath. Scarpus lunged. Their swords collided in a shower of sparks. The sound echoed off the stone walls like a drumbeat of war. Kael feinted left, then struck right, his blade carving a shallow wound along Scarpus's ribs. But the older warrior was cunning. With a sudden twist, he knocked Kael's shield aside and slammed his elbow into Kael's jaw. Pain exploded in his skull, but Kael refused to fall. The battle became a blur, the clang of steel, the taste of blood, the burning ache in every muscle. Both men were slowing, each strike costing more energy than the last. Then, with a roar, Scarpus smashed his shield into Kael's chest, sending him sprawling into the dirt. The crowd gasped. For a moment, it seemed the fight was over, but Kael's eyes still burned with fire. He pushed himself up, spitting blood, and raised his sword once more.
Tense, gritty, and emotional, drawing the listener deep into Kael's struggle. Scarpus advanced, confident, ready to end it. Kael could hear the Emperor's voice above the roar. "Finish him!" But Kael had one final card to play. He let Scarpus come closer, baiting him into a powerful overhead strike. At the last moment, Kael sidestepped, driving his gladius deep into Scarpus's thigh. The older man roared in pain, stumbling forward. Kael ripped his blade free, the crowd screaming in disbelief. The momentum shifted. Now Kael pressed the attack, his strikes a blur of precision and fury. Scarpus parried desperately, but the wounds were taking their toll. Sweat and blood stung Kael's eyes, but he pushed on. He could feel victory within reach, and with it, the weight of his vengeance. Then came the opening. A misstep, a fraction of a second too slow. Kael's sword plunged into Scarpus's chest, piercing armor and bone. The man staggered, eyes wide, gasping for air. Kael leaned close, his voice a low growl. "For my father, for my daughter, for my love." With one final twist, Scarpus collapsed, lifeless, onto the sand. The arena erupted in chaos, cheers, shouts, the Emperor rising to his feet in astonishment. Kael stood over the body, chest heaving, the bronze mask still hiding his face.
Kael turned toward the Emperor's balcony, the roar of the Colosseum still vibrating in his chest. The sun reflected off the bronze armor of the guards, casting long shadows across the bloodied sand. Every eye was upon him, spectators, senators, even the Emperor, whose expression was a mixture of curiosity and calculation. Slowly, Kael reached up, fingers brushing the cold metal of his mask, and pulled it away. A collective gasp swept through the arena, louder than any cheer Kael had ever heard. Mothers clutched their children, merchants stopped mid-gesture, and even the soldiers who had once feared him froze in disbelief. Whispers echoed like ripples across the crowd. "It's him, the son of Marcus Valerius." Some recognized him immediately. Others craned their necks to see the truth behind the bronze facade. Kael's face, streaked with blood, sweat, and dirt, revealed not just a warrior, but a man tempered by grief and vengeance. The Emperor leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "Name yourself," he commanded, his voice carrying authority across the arena. Kael's voice, deep and unwavering despite the chaos, reached every corner. "I am Kael, son of Marcus Valerius." Gasps erupted again, this time sharper, more pointed. In the noble seats, a senator turned pale, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. Kael's gaze locked with him, and he saw the recognition, the fear, the certainty that the past he had uncovered would no longer stay buried. Memories of the night his father had been betrayed flooded his mind. The ambush, the screams, the betrayal by those sworn to loyalty. Around him, the crowd alternated between stunned silence and raucous shouting, some chanting his name, others questioning the spectacle unfolding before them. Soldiers exchanged uncertain glances. Even veterans who had faced him in the arena could not hide their astonishment. Kael felt the weight of every pair of eyes, the expectation, the curiosity, and the silent judgment of those who had once held power over his life. He let the silence stretch, letting each heartbeat thrum in the heavy air before speaking again. Justice is not given freely, nor mercy granted to the unworthy. Today, I claim what is owed. The Emperor's lips curved into a thin, measured smile. He had seen many masked champions, many victorious gladiators, but the display of control, of presence, of deliberate revelation, this was extraordinary. Around him, the tension was palpable, the sand of the arena now more than dirt and blood. It was the stage upon which history was being written. Kael stepped forward, unmasking himself fully, letting the sunlight illuminate the scars and determination etched into his face. Every spectator understood. The son of Marcus Valerius had returned, not as a boy, not as a shadow, but as a force none could ignore. The Emperor gestured subtly, and Kael knew the next steps awaited him beyond the sands, steps that would lead him into halls of power and into the very heart of Rome's hidden schemes. And yet for this moment, he allowed himself to stand, unmasked, triumphant, and terrifying in his resolve.
The arena had emptied, but the echoes of battle still lingered in Kael's mind. Sand clung to his blooded sandals, and the scent of iron and sweat hung heavily in the air. Guards marched away, and spectators drifted back to their homes, unaware that the true game was just beginning. From the shadows of a marble corridor, a figure approached. Senator Lucius Quintus, his robes dark, his gait measured. He had been present when Kael was taken from the galleys, had witnessed his rise, and now he moved with a purpose that could alter the fate of men. "You fought like a god," Lucius said quietly, his voice carrying a subtle weight that cut through the stillness. "Rome needs men like you, men who can wield power with both blade and mind." Kael's jaw tightened. He had no desire for politics. He had no interest in the subtle poison of power that ran through the veins of the Senate. "Politics is a trap," Kael replied, voice low, steady, yet edged with warning. "I came here for justice, not influence." Lucius smiled faintly, leaning closer, his eyes glinting in the flickering torchlight. "Justice," he whispered. "Justice is rarely simple. Your father's death, it was not the work of a lone man. There is another, a senator who still sits in power, whose hands are as stained as the murderer's blade." Kael's blood ran cold. Every detail of his father's final night returned with sharp clarity. The ambush, the betrayal, the careful orchestration of treachery, and now
The web stretched higher than he had ever imagined. "Why tell me this?" Kael asked, suspicion lacing every word. "Because Rome fears the wrong men, Kael, and sometimes it takes one man to change the tide," Lucius said. He gestured toward the city beyond the open window, where the last rays of the sun glinted off the marble domes. "You have skill, you have resolve, and you have the fire that can ignite change. But you must choose carefully whom to trust and when to strike." Kael felt the weight of the offer, the dangerous promise of power and vengeance intertwined. The path before him was no longer a straight line of blood and steel. It twisted into shadows, intrigue, and calculated risks. To confront the senator meant navigating a labyrinth of deception, of alliances forged and broken in secret halls. One misstep could cost him everything: life, honor, and the future he sought for his daughter and his love. He looked into Lucius's eyes and saw not only counsel, but challenge. "I will act," Kael said finally, "but not as a pawn. Every move I make will be mine alone." Lucius inclined his head, acknowledging the resolve in Kael's declaration. "Good. Remember, the sands of the arena are simple, but the corridors of power, they are far more treacherous. Choose your enemies wisely and strike decisively." Kael left the hall with the words echoing in his mind. The streets of Rome stretched before him, bathed in the warm glow of torchlight. Every shadow could hide an enemy. Every smile could conceal betrayal. And yet, beneath the tension, he felt the familiar thrill of a battle yet unwaged. A war that would demand more than his sword. It would demand cunning, patience, and the heart of a lion.
As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a blood-red glow over the Colosseum, Kael walked away from the arena, each step deliberate. The cheers of the crowd still echoed faintly in his ears, a distant reminder of the victory he had claimed. Yet his mind was far from the adoration of the masses. The true war had only begun. Rome's streets were alive with evening bustle, merchants closing shops, children running through narrow alleys, soldiers patrolling with watchful eyes. To the untrained observer, life continued as usual, but Kael saw beneath the surface whispers of fear, glances laden with suspicion, and the invisible threads of politics pulling at every noble and senator. Every corner of the city could hide an enemy. Every smile could conceal a dagger. He moved with the precision of a hunter, his senses attuned to every sound, every shadow. Memories of the arena, of blood and battle, merged with visions of the treachery that had claimed his father. The senator Lucius's words haunted him. The corridors of power were far deadlier than the sands he had just conquered. Kael's thoughts turned to his daughter, safe yet unaware of the storms gathering around her. The love that had sustained him through years of hardship was now a beacon, a guiding principle. He would fight not only for vengeance, but for the life of those he loved, and for justice that Rome had long denied. The city's marble halls glimmered in the fading light, reminding him of the opulence and corruption intertwined in its heart. Powerful men plotted, alliances formed and dissolved in silence, and yet Kael knew that his next steps would shape not just his destiny, but
but the fate of Rome itself. He paused atop a hill overlooking the city, letting the wind whip his cloak. The Colosseum, now quiet, loomed behind him, a monument to blood, triumph, and the unyielding human spirit. Kael clenched his fists. This was only the beginning. Each decision, each alliance, each strike would carry the weight of vengeance and strategy. The road ahead would be long, treacherous, and unforgiving, but he was ready. With a final glance at the fading sun, Kael descended into the streets, disappearing into the shadows where politics, intrigue, and power awaited. The people would remember him as a hero, the Senate would fear his name, and enemies would soon learn that Kael's wrath extended far beyond the arena. As night fell over Rome, Kael's silhouette merged with the darkness. His war was no longer confined to sand and steel. It had entered the hearts of men, the corridors of power, and the unseen chambers where destiny is written in whispers, fear, and the calculated precision of a mind honed for victory. The game had changed, and Kael was no longer a player. He was a force that would reshape the world around him.
Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, subscribe to the channel, like it, and be sure to click the bell so you don't miss new stories.